What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel, guys. Panda here, and we are playing some Watcher of Realms. This is going to be probably the second video that gets released today. In the first video, we talked about the Invocation of Spirits 2 times and 10 times for some pretty crazy champions, including Hollow, which is fantastic. But this video specifically is going to be about one of the newest champions coming to the game, Allura. She is a Watcher Piercer Marksman champion that, in my opinion, is very, very powerful, and I do highly recommend pulling for her, especially because she's paired with Hollow, which if you don't already have, Hollow is a game changer. I think this banner is going to pull a lot of money for Moonton. I know I myself am definitely going to be summoning, so let's dive right into her kit. So first things first, guys, she has a pretty decent range, right? This range is pretty awesome. She's also a piercer, which means she does get access to the additional range from the piercer lords. However, she's also a watcher, and if you happen to get lucky either before this weekend or during this weekend and pulled a Leia, she is very, very powerful with Leia because of the fact that she revolves around wanting to be away from everyone else. And Leia has the ability to heal people and buff them when they're healed, even if they're not in her range, which I think is very powerful, especially for Allura. But let's go ahead and dive right in. Her talent is when the ultimate is not activated, remains in the invisibility state. So if you aren't familiar with invisibility, there's other champions in the game that have this, such as Hats or Hatsut, and it basically just means she can't be targeted. This is very, very powerful, especially in places such as Gear Raid 3, where you have that single area on the right-hand side that the big eyeballs come out of and they just decimate whatever champion is there. Having invisibility means that she can't be targeted by that eye. I believe that Allura is going to be a very, very powerful champion to stick on that right side if you don't have a Hotsit, or even if you do, she's probably going to be better than Hotsit, because Hotsit's invisibility is only for the first, like, I think 10 to 15 seconds of the battle after being deployed, while hers is 100% up except when ulting. And you have control over when she ults. So her basic ability here deals damage. It's nothing crazy. It's just 120% damage to one unit, prioritizing airborne. Cool. Then we have her first passive, which is pretty good because it allows you to have an easier time building her. She starts with a basically passive 15% crit if you can get 2 skill ups into this, while also gaining an additional 35% crit damage if there are no allies in adjacent tiles. This is what I was talking about with Leia's Lord passive of being able to be healed when you ultimate, and getting that extra bonus. You don't have to be near her to receive heals, and so you can really make good use of this passive, just giving her a ton more damage. Then we have her second passive here, which is during her ultimate, for each crit hit landed, she deals 60% damage to 2 targets within 1.5 tiles of the initial target. This is another reason why she's going to be good in Gear Raid 3, because she actually does AoE damage during her ultimate. So you can not use her ultimate with the eyeballs, use her ultimate when the secondary wave of 3 shows up, and get a good chunk of damage on them during that ultimate. Very, very powerful kit for Gear Raid 3. If you're struggling there, definitely a wanna pull banner. I think she's going to be great for there. Let's dive into the ultimate. So the ultimate, it is a manual ultimate, which is great because, again, when you're not using ultimate, you're invisible, which means you can choose when to lose that invisibility by pressing your ultimate. When this is triggered, she loses that state, but that then each attack changes to 2 strikes in a row, and damage to airborne units is increased by 45%. Again, guys, this is where I said at the beginning, or maybe it was in the last video, where she's a combination of Hatsut and Idril, right? It's kind of crazy. She also has some other pieces of other piercers kits too. I don't remember who it is, but there's there's several piercers that have a secondary hit built in. Let me know in the comment section down below if you know who that is. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I believe that Allura is going to be game changing in the meta when it comes to Gear Raid 3. She is not a must have, because of course you can do this with other characters, but I think she's going to make Gear Raid 3 progression kind of a joke for several people who are maybe just missing someone to handle that right side, because the left side is relatively easy to handle once you get the right character, such as Maul, or you happen to get lucky and pull someone like Nyx, you could also use Brienne there. There's several options to use on that left side, but that right side can prove to be tricky. And so you end up having to use something like, a spawn and despawn strategy like I had to use with my HOTS in order to handle those right side ads. But I think she is going to be ridiculously powerful. The other great thing about her, guys, is she only has a cost of 12. She's just as cheap as Idril, basically, right? 12 cost is crazy good. It's the same cost as HOTS. It's only one more cost than Idril. Very, very cheap, easy to put on the board. And also, another huge thing, guys, is she's Watcher and Piercer, which means she's a great champion to build up for faction trials because she's a 2-in-1. So very, very powerful there. Let's quickly dive into her Awakens, and then we will go ahead and move on from this. Her A1 is crazy. Personally, I think that her A1 is a ridiculous A1. And the reason is because I personally have a ton of gear that has very high crit rate rolls. And so it is difficult sometimes for me to find the ability to put crit rate on champions without going over the 100% crit rate cap, especially on champions such as Wrath, Deimos, now Allura, that have a very large base crit rate. And so this passive right here allows any excess crit rate you get to be converted into an equal percentage of crit rate, which personally I think is kind of insane, because you're able to get a lot of extra crit rate. So for example, if we go and we find, a piece of gear that I have here, that is a crit damage set. Let me see if I've got one. Right here. So this right here has 72% crit damage, right, as the main stat, but it also has 26% crit rate. Let's assume that I put this piece over here in response to my attack bonus here. I'm already at 86.5% crit rate. If I were to put this on, this would take me over the crit cap to about 113%, which means that I'm not getting 72% crit damage. I'm actually getting about 85% crit damage from this piece of gear right here, which is a very large chunk of crit damage. And so I really feel like this passive is going to be pretty game changing for people who have some interesting roles in terms of their gear stats, but also it's just really powerful for people such as Autumn who give crit rate. Well, if you're building your champions to have 100% crit rate, that crit rate doesn't do anything for most of them. It will give an additional crit damage number to Allura, which I think is fantastic. Her A2 gives a flat attack boost, always great. Her A3 is another very powerful awakening, in my opinion. Crit hits triggered in the invisibility state will have a 50% chance to deal an additional 80% damage to 2 targets within 1.5 tiles of the initial target, which basically what this means, guys, is you don't even have to ultimate with her. In fact, ultimating with her is probably not that crazy, right? Because if you come over here during the ultimate, for each crit hit landed, she deals 60% damage, right? Which goes up to 80%, which is the same thing as her A3, right? You do lose the 2 strikes in a row, so her ultimate is still going to be worth using. However, if you're in a stage where losing invisibility for a period of time is something that's going to get Allura killed, you're still going to get a decent chunk of damage out of her without having to use her ultimate, while also providing yourself with that great survivability that invisibility can provide. Then we go to her A4, which she gets an additional 8% crit rate. Again, if you've got her capped on crit rate, this is 8% crit damage. There's definitely no negative there. Then we go to her A5, and this is when in the invisibility state, every 10 crit hits triggered will increase damage by 10% during the next ultimate, stacking up to 3 times. And of course, when the ultimate ends, the damage increase will be removed. So this allows for her to have some pretty insane, ridiculous single target and AoE burst damage by basically, if you get 30 critical hits between each ultimate, you're going to get a 30% damage increase while you're in your next ultimate, which I think is just crazy. But guys, what do you think about this champion? Personally, I think her design looks great. I love her kit. I really hope I pull her for several reasons. One, I think she's phenomenal. I think she's going to be great in a lot of game modes. Two, specifically, one of those game modes is Gear Raid 3. And if you know, I'm on Gear Raid 319. But if I could push to 20 or 21, that could be a game changer for my account. And I think Allura might be able to do that for some people, including me being one of those people. So I am definitely going to be pulling for this weekend, mainly for Hollow. But if I get Allura, I will definitely be happy. But guys, let me know in the comment section down below if you are going to be pulling, and if you are you pulling for Allura or for one of the other champions on this list? Look forward to the next video where we'll be talking about the other hero in the legendary status on this next banner, Constance, who is also a very, very powerful healer. If you liked the video, please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to see more content from me in the future. And I hope you have a good one. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.